Hey everyone, it's Dexum. So a lot of people have been asking what characters should they buy. I wanted to put together a list of my top 10 favorite characters, and really I believe these are the best 10 characters that you can get in this game right now. I chose Angela because she has a lot of fantastic things going for her. She has several axe abilities that are guaranteed brutal strikes. Her Hypnotic Ribbons ability is an AoE confusion that'll confuse anybody around you, so they won't attack you, they'll attack each other. She also has several movement abilities, she has some bleeds, and her energy mechanic, Heaven's Wrath, slowly fills up as you fight. Some abilities make it fill up even faster. And whenever you reach the maximum Heaven's Wrath, it turns into Rage of Asgard. Rage of Asgard will allow you to use any of your non-signature cooldown powers as many times as you want, which means you can spam all of your brutal abilities back to back, doing immense damage in a short amount of time. The reasons why I picked Doctor Strange are pretty apparent. He's a very versatile character who can put out a lot of AoE damage, as well as throwing out summons. He has energy regeneration powers, he has damage over time, and his primary resource is mana, and it constantly regenerates. What makes Doctor Strange really interesting is his secondary resource, which is Mystic Energy. As his energy reaches full, similar to Angela, you can use any of your cooldown powers, and it will only spend 2 Mystic Energy, and reduces their mana cost to 0. That means that you could spam your hardest hitting abilities as many times as you want, without any mana cost. This attributes to very heavy burst damage. Or, if you're a summoner, you can use summon powers and have a room full of summoned minions. Doctor Strange overall is one of the best characters you can use regardless of the content you're going up against. A lot of people on the PC said that Blade was one of the best kept secrets, and he's not much of a secret in the PS4 version. Blade is really a powerful character, primarily because his signature ability, My Namesake, does immense brutal damage, and it's guaranteed to brutal strike. Just by itself, you could expect about 150 to 250,000 damage prior to the brutal strike, but with the brutal strike you're looking at anywhere from 1 million, and if you're speccing into it, I've heard that people go as far as 7 million brutal strikes. But Blade is more than just a brutal strike. His ability Whiplash allows you to run around and attack everything while moving, which is pretty rare for this game. Not only will it damage them on hit, but it will also do damage over time. On top of that, Blade also has several other damage over time abilities that will stack, and abilities like Hypertoxin Grenade will put a vulnerability buff that'll give them 25% more damage received by grievous wounds, which is what you apply when you use Whiplash. Lastly, every time you attack, Blade accumulates thirst, and when it reaches full, Blade becomes starving. And when you're starving, it reduces the damage output by 10% and causes 8% of Blade's maximum health to be lost per second. However, due to this mechanic, they also gave Blade a serum, and while affected by the serum, you get a 30% damage bonus and a 30% move speed bonus. It also regenerates 15% of your maximum health, or 30% if you're already starving. That means that they basically give him an inherent heal on top of your medkit, which gives him a major advantage while leveling. Hulk is one of the strongest characters there is out there right now, and Hulk would normally agree that he's the strongest there is. But what makes Hulk so amazing is that he has a lot of guaranteed brutal strikes, and a lot of other heavy-hitting powers, including a lot of movement powers, which just makes him fun to play. Hulk's anger mechanic really comes into play when his anger reaches maximum. When Hulk is very angry, his base damage increases by 45%, his critical hit damage increases by 45%, his brutal strike damage increases by 45%, and his critical hit rating increases by 20%, and his move speed increases by 20%. Of course, this all happens when you use the talent Hulk Really Mad, which increases the benefits of anger by 50%. He also has a talent that, instead of taking fatal damage, his anger level will absorb the damage instead. So when you're about to die, instead it'll start to sap your anger. And Hulk has a lot of abilities that help increase your anger, so you could stay alive indefinitely. One of the best abilities is the Hulk Smash ability, which is a huge AoE brutal strike. Not only that, but with the talent Hulk Smash, it will also increase your anger all the way to very angry, meaning that you can open with it, and it will always do a brutal strike and a ton of damage and increase your anger to very angry so that all your subsequent attacks have that damage bonus. I chose Kitty Pryde because she's also a very versatile character. Most people would say that Jean Grey would be a better slot in this top 10 list than Kitty Pryde, but I disagree. And mainly because Kitty Pryde also has a guaranteed brutal strike that does several 100,000 damage using line of fire, which hits everyone in a piercing line ahead of you. What also makes her pretty great is that she has a lot of movement powers that make her invulnerable while she's attacking, which makes her great for a lot of AoE damage, and utilizing Lockheed also gives you a lot of damage over time. Most importantly, her movement powers just make her fun to play, and you'll see that for the Cosmic Trial there's probably a dozen builds out there for her that work. While Jean Grey is an awesome character and she does amazing AoE damage, awesome healing, and is also just an all-around fun character to play, when played right, I believe Kitty Pryde and her brutal strike damage and invulnerabilities far outweigh the damage output of Jean Grey. With the ability Warrior of the Flock, Line of Fire turns into a guaranteed brutal strike, which increases the damage by 125% and also has a 100% brutal strike chance. It puts out insane damage. And even with the 100% cooldown, with the right build, you can use it at about twice the rate of other brutal strike abilities like Blade Signature. And while it might not do as much damage, you can activate it at twice the rate, so it almost evens out. Also, every attack that you do with Kitty Pryde gives you health on hit. She-Hulk is on my list because she is a really fun character to play, and she's also very, very powerful. I would say that She-Hulk has some of the best synergizing abilities in the game currently, which means one ability works really well with another. Spending a little bit of time to find out what each of her abilities do can really change the way that you play her. Overall, she's one of the most versatile characters, even though she plays primarily melee. She's also one of the most mobile characters, which makes her just a fun character to play all around. She gets a guaranteed brutal strike, which you can play up to do immense damage, and you can utilize it all the time. She also gets a confusion ability and a summon ability. And her signature ability, Conviction, if used right, can synergize with several other abilities and her combo points so that it has a 15-second cooldown. You can be doing immense AoE damage a lot faster than many other characters. By now, if you haven't heard anything about Scarlet Witch, then you haven't been paying attention to a lot of the videos online. Scarlet Witch is probably one of the fastest clearing characters that you can have, or even if you're just leveling. Her two abilities, Unmake Reality and Chaos Rift, together give you several options for instant kill abilities, which makes content a breeze whenever you're using her. She's more than just instant kill abilities too. She also has Bewildering Hex, which is a confusion ability that's really useful when you take her into the Cosmic Trial or any of the trials where her instant kill abilities won't work. Aside from these instant kill abilities, she also has a lot of AoE, which makes her a really good choice when you're just looking to do some AoE damage even without the instant kill abilities. Overall, she's a must-have if you're going to be doing any shield box farms, or even if you just want to do infinity point farming or legendary mark farming. She makes it much easier to do those things. Thor recently went through some changes where they added Odin Force as his primary resource. While leveling, Odin Force might seem like a detriment to him, but at max level, you nearly never run out of Odin Force, and it increases your damage exponentially. While Thor doesn't have any guaranteed brutal strike abilities, what he does have is very hard-hitting abilities that utilize Odin Force. And as you generate that maximum Odin Force all the time, you're doing immense damage, with several abilities having guaranteed critical strikes, extremely powerful AoE, and he has several movement powers which just makes him fun to play. While ranged builds are possible with Thor, a melee ranged hybrid is probably one of the most fun builds that I've played in this game, with being able to jump in and out of combat as I see fit, doing crazy AoE damage, dropping enemies quickly, makes Thor one of the most fun characters that you can play right now. Storm is just an AoE powerhouse. She can apply so many statuses and do amazing AoE damage. She can freeze, she can apply electric damage, she can stun, she can slow, she can even throw out some heals. She's just a very powerful character. One of my favorite abilities to use with her is Obscuring Fog, which will conceal you and all of your allies for 5 seconds. And during that time, you can still attack and she doesn't lose the stealth. She can be putting out damage while enemies can't even target her. Another great thing about Storm is that you can use all her abilities pretty much whenever you want, except for those that require Tempest Surge, which is pretty much similar to how Angela and Doctor Strange work. Once your bar reaches full, Tempest Surge activates. It increases your base attack speed by 20%, your movement speed by 20%, your base damage by 20%, and your dodge chance by 20%. If you've been playing this game for any amount of time, you'll know that a lot of people are playing Iceman, and there's a reason for that. Iceman is a very versatile character, but what you'll notice most about Iceman and people playing him is that he has summon abilities which makes him an easy character to play. And easy is good in his case. A lot of his abilities freeze enemies, he's got summons to tank for him, he has a lot of hard-hitting abilities, and he has one of the best signatures in the game that does damage in an AoE that covers a large portion of the screen. Not just that, but it'll freeze enemies and chill enemies, which makes it excellent for farming, doing cosmic ops, legendary missions. He's just an all-around amazing character, and I would recommend Iceman as a perfect starter character if you have any people who want to get into the game but aren't quite sure how to play yet. Well, there you have it. Those are my top 10 characters for Marvel Heroes Omega on the PS4. I anticipate that this will also be the same for Marvel Heroes Omega on the Xbox One, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Thanks.